Step in my dojo, you
Step in my dojo, you
step in my.
Hey. Yo, what up?
Hey. Hello. Welcome.
At Producer Dojo, we have a constant stream of live events waiting for you to come get your learn on. Sign up at the link below to make sure you don't miss out.
What's up, Moonsplatta here. I want to talk today about spectral processing. I've been really digging into these new Ableton spectral devices, spectral resonance and spectral time. They are a lot of fun. So what is spectral processing? It's kind of important to understand a little bit about how it works to know why you might want to use it. You can think of it like the inverse of additive synthesis. If we go over here to our additive synthesis section from the bass sound design course, the basic idea here is that any waveform can be expressed as a series of sine waves superimposed on each other, meaning that if you take a synth like Razor and you tell it to produce a square wave, does this mathematical operation and adds up hundreds of sine waves until you get this square wave out of that combination sines. And so when you take something like spectral processor, like the spectral resonator, it's going to be doing what you can think of as like that inverse mathematical operation. So if you give it a square wave, it's going to do the inverse operation to break it down into its individual partials, hundreds of individual sine waves that then add up into that original signal. So then you can move them around or smear them or pitch shift them or delay them or whatever using the partials themselves. So it's different than like using a delay that's like taking the signal and doing a process to that signal and delaying it or something and changing it. It's actually breaking it down so you can then reform it in a different way, which is interesting because you're gonna, like additive synthesis, then you're going to get a different sort of tone from these types of devices. You can get a much more textural kind of sound. You could get like pretty crystally, like wet kind of tones, or you can get really distorted kind of things. It's got a huge range of possibilities. So let's jump over into Ableton here. I've prepared a few patches, and so we'll go into that. So one of the first things that you'll often see is people using it with drums. It could be really interesting with drums. So let's say we take this classic 808 beat here. And we'll take our spectral resonator. Right away, that's already sounding kind of interesting. It gives you that like metallic sort of tube effect, right? And we can start taking these knobs and playing with them.
Most of the heavy lifting in the track is done by this one drum kit. A lot of people will just continuously ignore drum sound design for huge portions of their career. They'll wonder why their music isn't like hitting people right, and it's like, we don't want to hear you play someone else's beat. We want to hear your beat. Once you know how to make them, and you understand that it's easy, because it is easy once you do the chorus, then your tracks are going to be so much more expressive, and they're going to have a real authentic texture that is undeniably yours, where you can speak and express yourself through the drums.
We've got modulators over here. missing. You could turn down the number of partials if you want like a darker sound. Over here on the left side of it, we have a couple of options for the mode, and this is where it really starts to get fun because you can have it respond to MIDI instead. So instead of having this frequency be locked to right now 123 hertz, or you could obviously automate that or whatever, or set it to a tuned pitch using this thing, but we can also set it to respond to MIDI. So we could say MIDI from MIDI 1 over here, where I have just this simple little clip set up, just 2 notes going from F to C. And so now we can have this get tuned according to whatever our MIDI input is here. So we hear it pitching up and down to that F and C. And so then you can transpose it from there, or this stretch thing kind of like changes the partials. If you go more to 100%, you get more of a odd harmonics, which gives you like a square kind of sound. And then we also have this glide here, so we could set a glide in between those 2 notes. If we turn off this mono here, and what if we then play this chord instead? So now we have this F triad going to a C triad. So now our drums have turned into this kind of chord kind of thing, which is really interesting. So there's a lot of possibilities there. It's following the same type of idea. You could do the same thing with vocals and get like a really cool vocoder kind of effect right away.
You didn't knock, Kane.
I did, but I think that the music was a little loud.
Are you afraid of it?
No, I just don't like techno.
You with your robot ears?
Yeah, I guess.
You didn't knock, Kane.
I did.
Are you afraid?
No, man. I saw it.
You with your robot ears?
I feel so great. It's the best decision I made to really take my music skills to the next level. I just feel so much confidence now in the process and just kind of, writing without having inspiration. Like when else in my life I thought that would be possible. And now I can sit down and have like 3-4 ideas. 4 drops, because I learned drops paid the bills.
Yes.
And I had like 4 awesome drops done in a day, and that's just mind blowing.
Yeah, I guess.
You didn't knock, Kane.
But I think that the music was a little loud. Are you afraid of it? No, I still like it. You with your robot ears? Yeah, I guess. You didn't knock, Kane. I did, but I think that the music was a little loud. Are you afraid of it? No, I still like it. You with your robot ears? Yeah, I guess. You didn't knock, Kane. I did, but I think that the music was a little loud. Are you afraid of it? No,
So that kind of got me thinking, like, what else could I do with this thing? And so I ended up realizing, well, what if we use that MIDI to create an instrument out of itself? So over here, I made this spectral lead. And so without the resonator, I'll just play it without it. It's really just this impulse. It's this little click. and that's all the sound is coming out of operator. So I took all of these envelopes down as low as they could go. We have a fixed frequency sound here, just at 100 hertz, just making a little click. And then by putting the spectral resonator after it and having the MIDI respond to the channel it's on, and having it at 100% wet, and then turning the decay all the way up, or not all the way up, but just having a long decay, you can now have an instrument that is just purely this spectral resonator. The granular mode can give you this kind of like random sort of almost wind chimey sound, which could be a useful effect. This I actually got from the Ableton manual when I was reading about these effects. This is one of their patches in there, which is very cool. You can use spectral time to make a reverb. If you just set this frequency very low, and then you want to have it on wander with the unison up and the unison amount up, mod rate low, the mod low, and then the key parameters here is the unison and then a low frequency here and having the wander, and then you end up getting all these partials kind of like smearing around it, and it ends up being a really cool reverb. So without it, it's just we just have a sine wave kind of pluck over here. But with this reverb now,